The Astronaut Who Painted the Moon. This is a true story about Alan Bean, and it's written by Dean Robbins, illustrated by Sean Rubin. My paintings record the beginnings of a quest never to end, our journey out among the stars. Alan Bean. Lights flashed. A rocket rumbled. Alan Bean's dream was about to come true. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The rocket roared off the launch pad. Alan shook in his heavy spacesuit. The other astronauts were shaking too. Richard Gordon flipped switches on the control panel.
"That's a lovely liftoff,"
Pete Conrad shouted over the noise. The shaking stopped as the spacecraft gained speed. Alan was in outer space. He had trained for so long as an astronaut and a scientist, and soon he would walk on the moon. Alan gazed out the window, marveling at the shapes and colors in space. The sky turned to black. The Earth was a blue and white ball glowing in the darkness. The moon was many shades of gray. Its mountains and craters seemed bigger the closer he got. Alan loved to think about the way things looked. As a boy, he made model airplanes to hang in his room. Green for the wings, red stripes for the tail, yellow stars along the sides. He dreamed of being a brave pilot himself one day. Alan volunteered for Navy flight training. He learned to take off, soar through the air, and glide in for a smooth landing. The Earth looked breathtaking from the cockpit. The white clouds above, the green fields below, the blue all around. Alan wished he could paint what he saw. He found an art class to teach him about patterns and forms. Alan dabbed his brush on canvas to paint a vase of flowers. His flowers didn't look exactly real, but he didn't want them to. They were brighter and bolder than real ones because he let his imagination take over. The painting showed how stunning the flowers looked through Alan's eyes, how they made him feel. The spacecraft flew 240,000 miles in 4 days. The moon was so close Alan could see valleys and ridges. He and Pete got ready to walk on a new world. Alan strapped on an oxygen pack so he could breathe outside. He stepped through the hatch to the most amazing sight. The moon was barren, but also beautiful in its own way. Gray dust as far as he could see, thousands of black craters, hard white sunlight, and everything perfectly still. Alan and Pete pushed a red, white, and blue American flag into the dust. Alan puzzled over the strangeness of outer space. He and Pete took dozens of photographs. They set up scientific experiments to measure the moon's soil and gases. Even in his spacesuit, Alan was much lighter than on Earth. He had fun bouncing around on his tiptoes. He could run and run without getting tired. His boots made deep marks where no one had stepped before. Alan was super strong in the moon's gravity. He threw a rock and watched it go up, up, up. Would it ever come down again? The 3 astronauts zoomed back to Earth at 25,000 miles an hour. They splashed into the Pacific Ocean to end their awesome adventure. Alan's friends asked him about his time in space. What was it like up there? He tried to explain the moon's barren beauty, but words weren't enough, and his photographs just showed a grim and gloomy place. There was so much more to the moon than that, so much magic and mystery. How could Alan share his story so others would understand? He pulled out his paints and brushes. Alan knew he was the only artist ever to leave the Earth, the only artist ever to see the moon up close. Maybe a painting could show how it felt to be in outer space. Alan began his work like a scientist. He built a model of the moon's surface and used an electric light as the sun. The model helped him paint the angles and shadows just right. Then Alan let his imagination take over. He added red and purple to the gray dust, blue and green to the black craters, yellow and orange to the white sunlight. The moon didn't look exactly real, but Alan didn't want it to. The painting showed how stunning outer space looked through his eyes, how it made him feel. He hoped others would feel the same thing, the wonder of walking on a new world. Alan liked his moon painting so much he did another one, and another after that. He mixed even brighter, bolder colors on his palette. Could he add real pieces of outer space to his paintings? Alan tried stamping them with astronaut boots. He scratched them with tools he'd used on the moon. He sprinkled dust from his spacesuit onto the wet paint. The surfaces grew as rough and rugged as the moon itself. A museum displayed Alan's paintings for everyone to see. Other astronauts came to remember their own awesome adventures in space. Boys and girls came too. They marveled at the shapes and colors. They felt the wonder of walking on a new world. Some dreamed of being brave astronauts themselves one day. Others dreamed of being great artists. And some dreamed of being both. I like to look at this page. The top row of pictures are all photographs from when Alan Bean was on the moon. The bottom pictures are paintings that Alan made from when he was on the moon, and he kind of added more detail to make those pictures have more feeling so people knew what he experienced. On the first set of pictures, the photograph is showing him getting a core sample tube into the lunar surface, and it was taken in 1969. And he said, "I vividly remember standing near Halo Crater and hammering this core tube into the moon. Later, back on Earth, we would find out that although there was some change in grain size and color, the granular material remained remarkably consistent with depth." The second two pictures is a photo of Alan Bean, and it shows him collecting lunar soil to take back to Earth. And at the bottom picture that he painted, Alan Bean said, "When I look at this painting now, I think it has some of the most beautiful color harmonies I've ever created." And the last one are views of the Earth. And the top picture is a partial view of Earth with Australia on the horizon. And it was taken by the Apollo 12 crew. And at the bottom one, Alan Bean said, "As I looked out my small triangular-shaped forward window, I could see the sharply curved horizon. We indeed were orbiting a body much smaller than the Earth. As I looked, the Earth, some 239,000 miles away now, appeared to rapidly rise. Australia was just coming into view, and it was breathtaking." Alan Bean lived from 1932 to 2018. He grew up loving airplanes. He also loved making beautiful things, beginning with the model planes he hung in his bedroom. He took his first painting class in 1961 at the same time that he trained to be a daring Navy pilot. In 1963, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration chose Bean as an astronaut for the new United States space program. After 6 years of intense physical and scientific training, he traveled to the moon with the Apollo 12 mission. On November 19, 1969, he became only the fourth person to walk on the lunar surface. The lunar surface means the moon. Bean returned home to a hero's welcome with a parade in his honor and congratulations from the President of the United States. He flew another mission into space but left NASA in 1981 to work on his paintings. While other astronauts were pilots and scientists, Alan was also an artist, the only one who traveled to another world. In his paintings, he hoped to show what it looked like through his eyes. Science had sent people to the moon, but Alan knew that art could express how it felt to be up there. Bean's paintings combined his skills as a scientist and an artist. He used exact measurements for the details, but he also used imagination to capture the dizzying sensation of walking on the moon. By sprinkling his paintings with moon dust, scraping them with moon tools, and stamping them with moon boots, he tried to make a direct connection with his experiences in space. As I worked with Alan on this book, I saw how much he valued sharing these experiences with a new generation. By then, he was in his 80s, a time when he could have simply rested on his laurels as one of the 12 humans to walk on the moon. Instead, he generously offered to help with the story and to contribute examples of his paintings. I could tell he was passionate about showing young readers what he saw on his fantastic voyage beyond Earth's orbit. I think of myself not as an astronaut who paints, Alan said, but as an artist who was once an astronaut. And that was by Dean Robbins, who is the author of this story.